The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done it. Congratulations, Bucs fans. Your second Super Bowl in franchise history. And for Tom Brady, his seventh Super Bowl of his career at 43 years old, leads the way for the Tampa Bay Bucs to win and dominate the Kansas City Chiefs. The almighty Chiefs that we heard so much about. It was titled, headlined, The Kid versus the GOAT. Well, the GOAT reigns supreme tonight, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are your Super Bowl LV champions. 31-9. 31-9. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers dismantle the Kansas City Chiefs. The game was never really that close. It ended 31-9, and it felt like 31-9. It's unfortunate to those of you that wanted a fun game, but I'm going to be honest, guys. For me, I enjoyed this game. Damn it. I enjoyed this game. Let me get my jersey in the picture a little bit more. We got the Tom jersey in the background. I don't want to spend all night about I told you this, I told you that, I told you this, I told you that. But I told you back in March, in August, in October, every week I was laughed at. Okay, the Bucs said they're not going to do anything. They're barely going to make the playoffs. They're not even going to make the playoffs. Week after week after week. The Bucs are not good. The Bucs are overrated. Tom doesn't have it anymore. He's over the hill. He's fell off the cliff. Bruce Arians. They can't figure it out. The defense is overrated. The secondary sucks. I told you. The best team in football tonight showed up and won this game. The best team won the game tonight. The best TEAM. Not the best player, not the best offense, not the best 3 or 4 or 5 players. And this is why I need to get on you guys, all right? I'm not specifically talking to you, the bottom line viewer out there who may have picked the Bucs. There's some of you out there that have, okay? Ultra, pick the Bucs. Not to win this game, by the way, so you're still at fault, Ultra. Sing, the GOAT himself, picked the Bucs over the Chiefs before the season began. Congratulations to you that called it. Congratulations to Bucs fans, man. I feel so happy for Bucs fans because you guys have been through, a decade of absolutely terrible football. I'm talking about bottom of the NFC South, never making the playoffs. And you guys, you get Tom Brady, you get the gift of Brady that I've been fortunate enough to have since I've began being a football fan. And he takes you to the promised land. You guys have a great team, okay? And this is what frustrates me. I want to get to those Bucs fans, but I need to address the elephant in the room. I said it last week with the Green Bay Packers. I've said it seemingly all playoffs long. I don't know how many times we need to learn that in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, the best team wins, okay? Not the best player, not the best coach, the best team, top to bottom. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the best team of 2020-2021. Did it take them a little while to get going? Yes. Did it take them a little while to get through those bumps in the road? Correct. But when it mattered, who was the best team this year? Tampa Bay. And this is why I'm a little on edge. I'm a little mad. I'm a little frustrated because the exact same thing that happened in, last week, NFC Championship 2 weeks ago, the last time, okay? Oh, the Packers, they might not be as talented, as good from top to bottom as the as the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers aren't as top to bottom, as sound, as good, as talented as Tampa Bay, but they got Aaron Rodgers. So they're going to win. Every single analyst I watched this week, every single podcast I tuned into this week said the exact same thing. Tampa Bay has the biggest mismatch in the game. The defensive line versus the offensive line. They're better on both lines of scrimmage. They are basically equal everywhere. Except, what did they say? The Chiefs have Mahomes, the Chiefs have Reed, and the Chiefs have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I'm sorry, guys, 4 people do not win a Super Bowl. 53 people win a Super Bowl. So when you're doing your analysis for football games, you need to expand your horizons on picking these games. I cannot tell you, okay, how many people picked Kansas City after going on a soliloquy about why the Bucs are more talented. Legitimately, I don't want to single out anybody, but this is just one example. Okay, so PFF picks Kansas City across the board. They made an article ranking the top 20 players in the game, and nearly 15 of them were on Tampa Bay. Despite that fact, they picked Kansas City. What does that make any sense? Okay? Tampa Bay, top to bottom, better roster. Better on the offensive line. Better on the defensive line. Better defensive coordinator we saw tonight. Better secondary we saw tonight. Better tight ends tonight. Okay, not necessarily, but tonight. Wide receivers. Probably Tampa outside of Tyreek Hill, right? I mean, really, what was the edge for Kansas City coming in this game? Other than they've only lost 1 game in 20 games, what was the edge they have? Like, I just don't understand analysis. I don't get it. It's garbage, okay? Garbage. I'm not saying Kansas City never stood a chance, but for Kansas City to be overwhelmingly picked in this game was an absolute joke. I'm sorry. I was confident going in this game that the Bucs would win. I was legitimately confident. And people were laughing in my face. Yes, Nicholas. PFF said that the most overblown storyline was the storyline that actually ended up determining the game, which was that Tampa's defensive line absolutely dominated this game. I mean, Tampa had pressure within milliseconds on Patrick Mahomes. And I know that you guys want me to address this. Okay. Mahomes is not at fault. I don't think Mahomes played very well in this game. I don't think he played particularly well, but he didn't play bad. It's very difficult to single out Patrick Mahomes as the loser of this game or at fault in this game because his offensive line just got dominated. I've been there, okay? Part of the reason I was confident in Tampa is because Tampa's D-line is what has given my teams in the past fits. I've seen the greatest team ever lose because of one defensive line, okay? And you're asking backup upon backup upon backup upon backup with no preparation, no games under their belt together, no continuity to actually step up in a Super Bowl versus Hall of Famer, best D tackle in the league, and Hall of Famer. I mean, what do you want me to say? Look at the Bucs D-line. You've got maybe 3 Hall of Famers and the best nose tackle in the league on their defensive line, and people just expected that Mike Ramers would be able to block Shaq Barrett. Get the fuck out of here, man. Like, what are you analyzing? What are you talking about? Okay? What are you talking? This is a team game. I don't care how many spinoramas Patrick Mahomes has to do, and I don't care how many sacks this guy avoided, evaded, whatever. What a joke. The analysis from some of these people is just funny because they said the same thing. The Bucs roster was seriously underestimated in this game. Seriously. All year, honestly. I mean, there's some people out there that gave them their due, but I feel like I'm mad because I feel like I'm the only person that said this. I'm the only person that said that this team is the best team. I'm the only person that said they're the best roster. And yet, people pick the Chiefs. I don't get it. I don't get it. When you don't have a good offensive line and you're playing the best D-line in the league, you're going to lose. When your D-line can't rush for and get to Brady, you're going to lose. I mean, what is the saying? If you can't get to Brady, you lose. I thought that's what everybody said. But yet nobody talked about that before the game. I mean, how many times did the Chiefs actually touch Tom Brady? How many times did they touch Tom Brady? Okay? Like twice? 3 times? That's not good enough. The 31st best run defense was exposed today. We saw Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones. I mean, even Andy Reid to a certain degree. He tried his best to scheme around the offensive line, and I give him credit for trying to find a way. But it simply wasn't good enough. I have to say this. Andy Reid, I knew the game was over when you decided to kick a field goal when you were down, what was it, like 21-6 at half, and then you kicked a field goal to make it 21-9, I believe. That's when I knew the game was over. I'm just spitballing here. I think that was the score. When Andy Reid kicked a 52-yard field goal on a 4th and 6 or 4th and 7, down 14 to 17 points, you're going to lose. Like, here's the thing. Last year, you were able to win that game because you had those tackles, first off. Second, you were playing Jimmy Garoppolo. You were not playing Tom Brady, okay? Tom Brady was never going to give up this lead. Once the Bucs went up in the game, it was over. Over. Why? Because you were completely outmatched on the offensive line. Mahomes was running 25 yards back just to throw the ball. So when you're forced in those situations, they were even running the ball in the second half a good amount because they knew they couldn't just consistently drop back because they were being overwhelmed in that area of the game, right? I'm going to go through every player, every matchup, everything that happened, but this is just my immediate thoughts on the game. I'm happy that the Bucs won. I am pumped that Tom Brady has won his 7th ring. And Bucs fans should be absolutely pumped. And I'm sure some Patriots fans out there are absolutely pumped. But I'm mad because I feel like I was alone and I was made fun of because of it. And I don't even like bragging about, like, I don't even want to, but I just feel like so many people underestimated the Bucs. That's almost part of the reason they won this game 31-9. How can you look at both rosters objectively and say the Chiefs was better? Like, objectively, go down the list of, like, player for player, 53 to 53, and compare each team. It's not close. And, like, I want to say that Tom Brady was, like, the reason they won. No, he wasn't the reason they won. I mean, he was awesome in the game, but this was a team effort. The Bucs won this game as a team. Tom Brady made a lot of big throws, and Tom Brady made a lot of big plays and didn't make critical mistakes that were big, but this was a team win. Because at the end of the day, the teams win these games, guys. The defense played phenomenal. Todd Bowles coached them up. Byron Leftwich, guys. I've been on Byron Leftwich all year. I thought he underwhelmed me for a good portion of the first half of the year. I thought he got way better in the playoffs. But this Super Bowl was his best game of the year by a mile, okay? By a mile. Byron Leftwich, his play calling, the balance, the play action, the screens. I mean, Spagnuolo was on his toes, on his heels, man. This guy, Spagnuolo, was trying to time blitzes. He was trying to get pressure. He was trying to find ways to get to Brady. But Leftwich did such a good job at, when it was the correct time, hitting them with the correct run, hitting them with the play action on first, coming back with a run, a phenomenal play to AB for that touchdown. Really, their only mistake from a play calling perspective in the game was probably that that 4-down series where they had it at the 1-yard line and they weren't able to push it in. So I thought Byron Leftwich was one of the MVPs of this game because of his script, his play calling. Of course, the players executed, but it wasn't like one player for Tampa was the reason they won. It wasn't Brady. It wasn't the offensive line. It wasn't Gronk. It wasn't AB. It wasn't Godwin. It wasn't Evans. It wasn't Fournette. It wasn't Rojo. It wasn't Devin White. It wasn't Levante David. It wasn't Jamel Dean. It wasn't Shaq. It wasn't JPP. It wasn't Vita Vea. It was all of them. Okay? It was all of them. Of course, they won the line of scrimmage, and it wasn't close, and that's why they dictated the pace of play, and they dictated the game. But I thought their play calling to go along with their dominance of the line of scrimmage was why they won the game. Because not only were they physically the better team, but they also put their players in the right positions to succeed. We'll talk about Todd Bowles right after this super chat from Ultra. Thank you, Ultra, for the $9.99. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for all the great content this season. Looking forward to the offseason content. Thank you, Ultra, and I'm looking forward to the offseason too. And like Tom Brady said, he's going to be back there next year. Man, Leftwich was great, but Todd Bowles was just as good, if not better, man. Todd Bowles was so creative in this game from a coverage perspective. It wasn't necessarily from a blitz perspective, although he did a good job of stunting and, throwing creative blitzes at Mahomes. In the first half, we had a outside corner blitz, on a key 3rd down from, I believe, Jamel Dean off the edge. We had a nickel blitz from Sean Murphy Bunting. We saw stunts all over the place. We saw Vita Vea at D end. We saw Shaq Barrett at D tackle. We saw JPP inside. We saw Devin White off the edge for, pressure. But of course, he just compounded their edge they already had and just made it that much better. And then on the back end, I thought they did a great job of mixing in different coverages, mixing in zone when it was appropriate, mixing in man-to-man, taking chances on certain matchups. They made Tyreek Hill disappear. This guy backflipped on them twice last time. And guys, I love Tyreek Hill. I've called him the best receiver in the game, and I stand by it. The Bucs did a phenomenal job of taking him out of the game. And this just speaks to what I've been talking about the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill. If you take Tyreek Hill out of the game, this offense struggles. Because, look, Kelsey had 130 yards on 10 catches. They only scored 9 points. But Tyreek Hill was a non-factor. And that's why they actually were legitimately able to slow down this offense. Because the coverage, their ability in open space to tackle, to bring these playmakers to the ground, and then to be able to, get enough pressure consistently to the point where if the Chiefs ever made one mistake at all throughout the game, on a drive, it would cost them the drive. It would cost them a punt, a turnover, or whatever, right? So, man, it's just like these coaches, I really want to give, because I've been harsh on Byron Leftwich, so I want to give him credit. I love Todd Bowles. The guy is a phenomenal coach. I think he deserves a head coaching opportunity. He put his talent in the right places to succeed. The secondary that has been absolutely, torn apart all year from the haters out there, the people that doubted them before the year. I remember the comments. They said this secondary is going to be the reason they lose. Well, it was not. Jamel Dean, all playoffs, played out of his mind. I mean, I don't know how many catches he gave up in this game, maybe 2. He had a majority of the role on Tyreek Hill. I love how they played Carlton Davis on Sammy Watkins. Watkins was like a non-factor. Even in big plays like Levante David covering Travis Kelce, Antoine Winfield covering Travis Kelce, the appropriate double team at times. But I just thought this secondary grew and grew and grew as a very young unit. They came together. The chemistry was phenomenal. And this was the first time since week 5 that they actually had their full roster on defense, their full starting 11, right? They had Vita Vea, who played great. And they had all their secondary guys, right? Antoine Winfield missed last game. Whitehead played with a torn labrum. Credit to him. Devin White with a pick and a great game. I thought he did a great job when he was asked to, make plays. They basically dared the Chiefs to run the ball, and the Chiefs basically were forced into running the ball because they couldn't make any plays down the field because that pass rush and that front seven was just too vicious. And I think really the key to the game was perhaps the Bucs at the beginning of the game not letting the Chiefs execute those short plays. I think that was really the key to the game, honestly. I like that first drive, for example, where the Tampa goes 3 and out. You're like, ooh, that's not a good start. This doesn't look good for Tampa. It took the Bucs offense a couple drives to get situated, a couple drives to get comfortable, and eventually, once they hit their third drive and on, they were dominant on offense. But it was really the Bucs defense at the start of the game where they were able to, because we knew, Andy Reid, we knew his script would be, let's get a lot of screens, let's run it a little, let's get the ball out quick from Mahomes' hand. We don't want to test these tackles early. We're going to play like we did versus Buffalo, so to speak. We're going to make it easy on Patrick to make these easy throws underneath the defense, and we're going to let our playmakers run after the catch. And I thought the key to the game early was getting the ball in the hands of Tyreek Hill or Mecole Hardman or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then the Bucs, Devin White, Levante David, Winfield, these guys just swarming and making that tackle immediately. The Bucs did a great job on early downs. I said the key to the game would be early downs. They dominated early downs on both sides of the field. Whether that was through play action on offense, through running the football. They were great running the ball today. And I said, if they're successful running the ball, they're in business because they love to run the ball on first down. They were getting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards a clip on first down, running the football with Leonard Fournette and Rojo, who had great games. And when they would play action, they'd often hit it, or they'd hit Cam Brate on a flat, or Gronk on a flat, and pick up some yak. They did a good job with screen passes, getting those on early downs. AB, Chris Godwin on screen passes. And then you had the defense on early downs. When they ran it, it wasn't like they gashed them, right? Because Tampa basically said, we're going to play too deep. We're not going to play the run. So if you run it, it's up to our 5 or 6 guys up front to just make that a minimal gain. And when Kansas City decided to run it, it was 3 yards, 2, 1 yard, maybe 5 occasionally. But eventually they'd make key stops on early downs on defense, tackle well, and then on third down, they get them into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, and it was game, right? I said that in the preview, like, if they get them into 3rd and long, this isn't the typical Chiefs because they're without their tackles. So if they're without their tackles on 3rd and long, that Bucs pass rush, you're going to have to take time to throw the ball down the field, and that's where the Bucs are going to be able to win the game. There was some key special teams plays in the game. I thought there was a key punt in the game that was kind of muffed, not muffed, but poorly kicked by Kansas City. That set up Tampa in good field position after they stopped them after the 4th down stop by Kansas City. That was a huge turning point, a huge momentum shift for Tampa to get that ball back, which was also in their favor because what ended up happening was they got stopped, but then they got the ball back. They got the ball back at the 40-yard line, so it was almost irrelevant because they went back down and scored a touchdown, and it took more time off the clock. Just like every area of the game. This is the thing that I thought people overlooked was Tampa. Everyone was talking about Tampa's winning on turnovers. Kansas City doesn't really play their best game, and they're still able to win. Here's the thing. when the other team is more talented than you, first off, Kansas City, that's a rare thing. They're not often out-talented. So that's the first thing. So you can't play bad when you played Tampa because Tampa's too talented. Secondly, Tampa was doing the same thing as the Chiefs all year. Tampa didn't play a good game all year. Like maybe once, maybe twice all year long. And they finally put together a complete game in this one, right? They didn't play a complete game versus the Packers or that would have been a blowout. They threw, Brady threw 3 picks in the second half and their defense, gave up some points, but they played well. But they didn't play a complete game versus Green Bay. They didn't play a complete game versus New Orleans because their offense kind of sucked and their defense carried the way. They were okay versus Washington, which was expected. But often it was like people underestimated that, okay, I heard this a lot throughout the week, that Tampa had to play a complete game to win, which they did, okay? But I heard from a lot of people that Kansas City would be able to win this game if they didn't play 100%, if they didn't play their A+. So that, I think, is just what was underestimated from Tampa's perspective. Because really, when you look at Tampa's season, they never really truly put everything together until this game. And parts of that were them figuring it out throughout the season offensively, getting some players back defensively. We finally saw their complete team. AB was back, Winfield was back, Vita Vea was back. They had all their players, and it finally showed up in this big game. I just can't say enough about how Tampa played. I just think they played so just phenomenally in all facets of the game, really. I don't see any area where they played poorly, from play calling on both sides to protecting the football to taking it away to pass rush to coverage to run defense to run offense to pass offense to offensive line. They really played great everywhere, and they made plays when they needed to, guys. I'll get to your comments shortly. Yes, I'm very excited to talk about this, of course. I'm pumped. The Bucs, of course, I'm a Patriots fan first, but the Bucs were really my team this year because they were the team that I went all in on. I said they'd win the Super Bowl. They were my Super Bowl pick at the beginning of the year when it's, free agent. When Tom went there, and once I analyzed this team, I don't remember what month it was that I did the video, but I did a video about the Bucs. It was called Meet the Bucs or something to that degree. And I called that they would be a very good team, if not win the Super Bowl. And, in that video, I basically went throughout their coaching staff, their roster, and I talked about why I believe it to be true. And I got a lot of hate for that video outside of Bucs fans that believed me. And then, as we progressed through the offseason, the more that you looked at the team, the talent, the roster, the draft they had, the free agency additions, then they add AB, then they add Fournette, and they're just getting more and more complete, and then you see them take the field. And it was around week 6 where they beat Green Bay down, and you're like, ooh, this team could really be the most complete team in football. But then they stagnated, and they had kind of a bad moment, before the bye. And that's why I'm excited about this win, because I was as much as I am a Patriots fan, it just feels better that when you talk about a team the way you do, when very minimal amounts of people, a small percentage of people believe you, it just feels good to, have it succeed. Because as I continue on as doing content on YouTube, it's almost more important to me than, getting these things right or being right and accurate, because I take pride in being accurate on my analysis, than, the Patriots being good, right? That's less important to me than me being right. So, and it was also, you doubled down on that when it was such a bold statement. And it felt, I'm sure it felt from a lot of you that I was biased picking the Bucs. But it was never about that, which is why I'm pumped. Because when you pick a team that you're rooting for, it's seen as bias. But that's not, that's not what it was ever about. So that's why I'm excited. This is almost more exciting to me than the Patriots' last Super Bowl, because I was right about it. Of course, it's Tom Brady, it's Rob Gronkowski, and a lot of players I love. And I think this is a huge thing for Tom Brady. I said it in the offseason when he left. I wasn't so mad about it. A lot of Patriots fans were mad about it. The reason I was optimistic about it, because I looked at the situation as, even being a Patriots fan, even though it sucked to see Brady leave, I felt he had a higher chance of doing something special in Tampa than in New England. Because I saw the talent on the team, the roster, the coaching staff. I felt it was a good place for him to go. And the biggest question from a lot of people, a lot of Brady haters over the years, has been, he can't do it without Belichick. He's a system quarterback, right? And even those things logically have been proven wrong throughout his history in New England, it's now like a joke if you bring that up. Like him doing it on a different team, in a different system, in a different location, in an offseason, guys. You got to put this into perspective. This is perhaps the most impressive season of Tom Brady's career. He is 43 years old. Keep in mind, no quarterback other than Tom Brady has been successful at this age, okay? He's not only successful, but he plays like an elite quarterback. Top 5 in my book this year. PFF grades him as the number 2 quarterback this season, throughout the regular season. Despite working out the kinks, despite not having the chemistry down. He wins the Super Bowl MVP, throws for 40 touchdowns, which is his second most in his career in a season. So, while I do not want to make this win about Brady, because I think it's about more than Brady, it's about the team. This season is about Brady. I would be mistaken if I did not talk about this season being Tom Brady's, because it has done so much for his legacy. Not only is he just the GOAT now, he is like a mythical figure. He is perhaps the GOAT. Not just in football, but maybe all of team sports. Or at the very least, he's the greatest winner of all time. Period. Exclamation point, if you like. So, for Brady, with the madness of the COVID offseason, where teams had a lack of preparation, a lack of time to study, a lack of practice time, a lack of... this season just is the purest example of what Tom Brady is as a football player and as a person. I think he did more as a leader than he did even on the field. I think it just speaks to what Brady is as a person more so than as a player. Because you see the belief in this team. You see the belief in the defense, the offensive line, the players around him, Mike Evans. It's just it's the Brady effect. It's funny to a certain degree, it's overblown to a certain degree or over-discussed, but it's real. You can't, the confidence in this team, because they have Tom Brady, is through the roof. I could only imagine, what it would be like if I was, let's say, Antoine Winfield Jr., playing on a team with Tom Brady. I don't know if it can ever be truly captured what he has done for Tampa's culture, the fan base, and the team. It's something that is intangible, that it will never be truly, actually, you can't figure it out, which is why it's so Tom Brady. Because for all of these years, People have told me that Tom Brady isn't the most talented quarterback. He doesn't throw the strongest football. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He doesn't throw the prettiest ball. He doesn't look the coolest. He doesn't do this or that on the field. He's not the most mobile or whatever. But I think it just speaks to like what Brady has been and what he will go down as. There is something about Tom Brady that is different than all other quarterbacks in NFL history. And it will never truly be explainable. And that is the thing that is just incredible. Like, for him to do that on this team this year just defies all odds. I feel like if this was any other quarterback, it will be discussed a ton. But if this was any other quarterback, we would not be so, not surprised, let's just say. It's wow, man. It's incredible. Like, as much as I believed in this team, as much as I thought they would be great, to see them actually follow through with it and do it is something else, especially this guy. It's crazy. Let's go through some stats and talk about the stats and kind of individual performances and what exactly went down from an individual perspective in this game. Thank you guys for hanging with me tonight in this recap. I appreciate it. Thank you for being a subscriber, a viewer with me all year for this regular season. It means a lot to me. If you guys haven't already, make sure you do. Gronk spiked that like button for 2 touchdowns tonight. And subscribe to the channel if you're tuning in for the first time. I'd appreciate it. All right, so let's take a look first at the loser, the Kansas City Chiefs. So, for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 26 for 49 and 270 yards. I believe he didn't get 100 yards until, I could be wrong, I don't think he had 100 yards till the third quarter. If I'm correct, let me know. If I'm wrong, let me know. He had 2 interceptions, the one closer to Devin White, as well as the other to Antoine Winfield. He had 5 rushes for 33 yards, and he had a 52 passer rating. Now, with Patrick Mahomes, 5 rushes, 33 yards. In the first half, the best thing Mahomes did was escape the pressure and run. I thought that was really the only way they were picking up first downs in the first half, was him finding a way to make some time and run. I think the offensive line was such an issue for him that it was in the back of his mind the whole game, especially in the second half, to the point where he was maybe missing a couple throws that he wouldn't miss, or he was simply, his clock was expiring faster than it should sometimes. Or he was running out of the pocket too quickly, right? I think there was times with Mahomes where the pressure was obvious from the jump, from the first play of the game, from the first snap to the end. That when you're a quarterback and you're constantly seeing your offensive line get dismantled play after play, it speeds up your internal clock and it makes you uncomfortable. I don't think Mahomes played a bad game. Again, I'll say it again. I don't think he played a bad game. Do I think he played a great game? No. Do I think he played a good game? No. I thought he was kind of average Mahomes. He made some incredible plays to extend things and keep things alive and nearly complete some things. But I felt like on a couple of the plays versus this defense that they needed to have, some of his players simply didn't make the play for him. Tyreek Hill didn't make the grab that he would have made in the past. Travis Kelce didn't make the grab that he would have made. There was a couple plays where it bounced off the helmet. There's a couple near receptions. I thought he showed heart. I thought he showed guts, so to speak. I thought he showed passion. But I just don't think he was able to overcome what many people expected him to be able to overcome. At the end of the day, this guy's human. As good as he is, as great as he is sometimes, right? You can't overcome your offensive line being that bad and then having no run game as a threat. I'm not speaking that the run game wasn't productive, but the run game was never a threat to Tampa. Like, they never took it seriously. They said, here you go, red carpet, run right at Vita Vea if you like. Here you go, right? They couldn't run the ball, and their screen passes, their play calling, they tried, but they were swarmed on repeatedly. But yeah, I thought Tyreek Hill, as much as he was doubled, he was intentionally taken out of the game. I don't think he played his best game. I thought he could have made a couple more plays in this game that would have been huge for maybe the shift in momentum or sustaining a drive or extending a drive for Kansas City to make this one a little bit more competitive. Not saying they would have won, but just saying, if they would have made one catch here, one catch there, you need to make these plays. You can't afford to drop the ball. You can't afford to miss these opportunities when they're there versus this defense, the way that they were dominating this game. When it's there to be had, you got to make them pay. And I think finally Kansas City playing a poor game, playing a bad game, which they've played many times this season, it finally caught up to them, and it was just too much. The other team was just too good to play this poorly, to not show up for the first half, right? And eventually it steamrolled in the second half, and Tampa was just the much better team. If you really think about it, if you take away the first quarter of the Week 12 game, the Bucs destroyed the Chiefs in 5 consecutive quarters. Not 5. What am I doing this math? 7 consecutive quarters, right? Like, that is how much they outplayed. They beat them down. I'm not sure what the collective score would be from the second quarter of the first game to the fourth quarter of this game, but it was a blowout. So I think a lot of it will be made that Mahomes didn't show up. He didn't do enough, and I don't think he did. I'm not trying to say that Mahomes is without fault. Obviously, he didn't play well, but I think this was more of a product. He didn't play well because the rest of his offense didn't play well. It wasn't like he individually was the reason they lost, or he individually was the reason the offense didn't produce. No, if you think that, you're wrong. The reason the offense didn't produce is because the offensive line couldn't block, they had no threat of a run game, and when the plays were to be had, they didn't make them. So speaking about that run game, Darrell Williams only had 2 carries for 5 yards. I thought he actually had more when I watched the game, but I guess not. 2 catches for 10. He was kind of irrelevant. Tyreek Hill had 1 carry for 5 yards. He had 7 receptions for 73 yards. A lot of those receiving yards were really in the second half or the fourth quarter even, when the game was kind of already over. Patrick Mahomes had those 5 carries for 33, and he was their most effective runner. Clyde had 9 for 64, but when it really mattered in the first half, they weren't really able to run the ball that well. And even when they ran it, even when they ran it well, it was mediocre. He had 1 carry for 26 yards. That was good. But I actually thought Clyde played pretty well for, getting 11 touches. He made the most of them. I thought Clyde played a good game. But I just, their run game was never a factor. Their receiving, Travis Kelce had 10 for 133. I think the numbers were deceiving. I thought he didn't play all that well. He didn't make a lot of big plays. He had 15 targets in the game. He put up the big numbers. He led the game in receiving yards and catches. But I think there was a couple drops in the game that usually he makes. And a lot of his catches were for 5 yards, 6 yards, nothing. There weren't a lot of big catches from him that were substantial plays, like third down conversions, 20-plus yard catches. like, I've seen better from Travis Kelce. I think the numbers will, when you look back at this game, you'll be like, oh yeah, Kelce was great. I thought he was the second best tight end in this game tonight. Sammy Watkins had 1 catch for 13 yards. I forgot he was even playing in the game at one point. Demarcus Robinson, same thing, 1 catch for 11 yards, irrelevant. Byron Pringle, 1 for 3, barely played. Mecole Hardman was a lot less of a factor than I thought he would be. I think because he was targeted 6 times, so it's not like they didn't try to get him the ball, but whenever they attempted it, he just, like, it wasn't there. A lot of the times it was like a underneath play or a screen or like a yak play, and like none of it went for anything. He had 2 catches for 4 yards in total. Harrison Butker, I could say this, played a very good game. He had 3 field goals and a 52-yarder in there as well. I think he had maybe 2 50-yarders. Their punter was terrible. Return game, Hardman had a good return, I think. 1 good return in the game. Defensively for Kansas City, I thought Tyrann Mathieu was awful in this game. I think this was one of the worst games he's played as a Chief. He took an interference in the end zone versus Mike Evans. That was interference. He pushed him in the back of the end zone. He took an unsportsmanlike penalty on Tom Brady. And overall, he missed a couple plays in coverage versus play action. I think this is why I say Tyrann Mathieu didn't play well. He is the leader of the defense, and he wasn't composed enough. I felt like once the Chiefs got down in the game, his inability to rally the troops on defense was part of the reason the defense wasn't able to make the plays necessary to get their team back in the game. Believe it or not, this team, the Chiefs, might have been able to come back if Tyrann Mathieu and this defense could have made plays. If they could have got a couple stops in the second half, the game wasn't over. But the difference between the Chiefs' comebacks of the past and the Chiefs' comebacks tonight, or no comeback tonight, was because their defense didn't make the necessary stops to allow them to come back. Because Brady and the Bucs put the foot on the gas pedal and didn't let off. Even when they were up 31-9, they threw a deep go route on 3rd down to Antonio Brown that I thought was a bad call, but at the same time, it exemplifies what they were trying to do. Like they said, we are not letting go of this game. We're not stopping on offense until the game hits 0. So I think why Tyrann Mathieu played bad is his leadership was very poor, which is what I've been very I've just been positive about him and his leadership throughout the season, and I felt he let them down in that area. Bashaud Breeland sucked too. He had an interference, maybe 2 interferences that were key conversions for Tampa Bay. This was overall a story of the first half. Kansas City is a team that plays very aggressive in coverage. Very, very aggressive in coverage. And they were not called at all versus Buffalo. All of a sudden, they got called on the plays that they should have been called on versus Buffalo, and that a lot of the times they get away with. Kansas City is they love to play man-to-man, and they love to be very physical. And a lot of the times they get away with it because usually refs don't call it. In this game, the refs were calling those plays. Like there was like 3 or 4 flags on the Chiefs that maybe in games past they got away with that I think were key to extending drives. They were penalties. Like there were holding, tugs, interference. They were penalties. But a lot of the times, those things slide under the radar with a lot of reffing crews. Like, for Chiefs fans to say that you guys lost because of the refs is completely utter bullshit. and I'm not going to stand for it because your team got completely outplayed. This is what I'll say about the refs. And this is only something that you'll know if you play sports. So, usually the team that is better in the game, usually the team that outplays the other team, that is outplaying them, outworking them, right? They're more aggressive, they're to the ball faster, they're getting good releases off the line. Their energy is higher, right? Let's just say they're outworking the other team. They're outplaying them in any sport, whether it be, football, basketball with fouls, hockey or lacrosse or whatever, any team sport where penalties are involved. When you are outworking the other team, you are going to get more calls than the other team. That is how sports work. If you've played sports, you know this. So if I beat my offensive lineman off the line around the corner and I'm turning the corner and I force a guy to hold me, that is not me getting a call. That's me outplaying my opponent. If I beat my corner off the line, I shake him and I'm about to be open and I get tugged, that's not on the ref. That's not the Chiefs getting screwed. That's the other team outplaying you. So while maybe one or two flags are questionable in the game, I'll give you that. There's always one or two flags that are questionable in a football game. But you cannot say that 31-9 was because of the refs. That is bullshit. I am going to call BS on that. I mean, come on. So I think overall a big story in the game was the corners of the Chiefs being aggressive and it not paying off for them because they were holding. And Breeland was the main example of that. I think Breeland was holding a lot because I think he wasn't fast enough to keep up with whoever he was guarding at the time. Daniel Sorensen, I thought actually played a solid game. I think he missed a couple abilities, or what am I saying? Daniel Sorensen missed a couple coverage moments where he maybe got caught looking his eyes into the backfield on play action, and there's a couple where Gronk was going down the middle of the field, and he didn't guard him. It's hard to know who was covering who, but I thought Sorensen was actually really good in the middle of the field, like tackling wise and making plays in that regard. I thought his coverage suffered though. He wasn't great in coverage. I thought Frank Clark at the beginning, it seemed like he was about to have a good game, but he didn't show up in key moments, and Frank Clark's been Frank Clark all year. Like, this guy's perhaps been the most overrated defensive lineman in the league this year. Like, he sucked all year. And he had one sack, which was the lone sack of the game, which was on the second drive, I believe, for the Bucs. But other than that, I do not recall his name being called at all. The defensive line collectively was pretty bad in all areas of the game. I felt Chris Jones was I didn't even hear his name be called at all. Other than the personal foul on Ryan Jensen, who we knew that was going to be a battle between those two guys, those two feisty guys in there at the line of scrimmage. Like, Jensen's one of the baddest what's in the league, and Chris Jones is kind of tempered, right? We saw that last week. He punched a dude in the face. He did something similar in this game, did not get ejected, but he did get a personal foul. I thought we saw the liability of the Chiefs linebackers in coverage. Neiman, Wilson, you could throw Sorensen in there at safety, but they did not do a good enough job covering Gronk. I thought the Bucs did a good job picking on those matchups with Fournette underneath, with their screen game, even some of the runs that they attempted to the outside where they were forcing those guys to track them down. I thought they did a good job there. Cam Brate made some plays versus those linebackers in coverage. So that was perhaps another matchup that was very, very in the favor of Tampa tonight. But you got to credit that Tampa O-line for outside of that one sack. They were spectacular, especially in the run game. They showed up tonight. They dominated. They bullied. And Chris Jones, one of the best D-linemen in the NFL, wasn't even a factor. So that is a huge caps off to those boys up front. Tristan Wirfs is going to be the best right tackle in the league for the next 10 years, I think. Ali Marpet, borderline all-pro. I thought Donovan Smith played a good game. Ryan Jensen played awesome in the run game. Those guys were great. Credit them. I don't really know if a Chief defender played all that well. I honestly, Juan Thornhill was okay, but he was not even a factor because he was that deep safety and they really didn't throw it at him that much. He wasn't really involved in the game. L'Jarius Sneed played probably a good game considering Chris Godwin was held in check. But outside of him and maybe one or two other guys, I felt like the Bucs on that side of the ball dominated the main portion of the game. I'll get to the chat in a little bit, guys. I'm just going through everything. I'm just chatting, having some fun. And it's hard to recall everything that happened because you're watching it live. Tom Brady, 21 for 29, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, was sacked once in the game, and had a 125.8 passer rating, which, believe it or not, I believe is the highest rating he's ever had in a Super Bowl, I think. Like I said, Tom Brady played a great game. He made a number of big throws in the game, but was he the main factor they won? I wouldn't say he was. Do I think he deserved the MVP? Yes, because this is a quarterback game. So 3 touchdowns, 201 yards. And very efficient day for Tom Brady. He didn't make any mistakes. He made a couple big throws, but, nothing too special. I've certainly seen Tom Brady play better in a Super Bowl. So, good game for him. Of course, he gets that 7th ring, but it was about more than him. I would say that if this game was closer, I think we were about to see Brady have 4 or 5 touchdowns and 300 yards. I think if this game was 31-28 Bucs, Brady probably would have had 300 plus 4 or 5 touchdowns. But it just so happened that they didn't need that from him in this game. So he recognized the game, and that's the greatness of Tom Brady. I thought he outsmarted Spagnuolo all game. Whether that was the audibles at the line, the checks and protection, just the efficiency of Brady tonight was absurd, spectacular. He didn't, I don't recall him making a bad throw. The first throw of the game was slightly off on time. Other than that, I don't remember a bad throw from him, and I don't remember him making a bad decision in the game at all, from any perspective. So I think Brady won this game in the subtleties of the game, not necessarily the highlights or the things that we notice most, but in his just overall leadership of the offense, the calls, the checks, the protections, the protection of the football, the big throws when he needed it, the timely clutch throws. I thought Brady was good in all of those areas. Now, running the football, Leonard Fournette had another really awesome game. Playoff Lenny, man. Arguably the MVP, to be quite honest with you. He played very well. He had 16 carries for 89 yards, 5.6 yards per carry, along with 27 on the day, and that was his touchdown. He also had 4 catches going over on the prop for 46 yards. So he had well over 100 yards, 120 yards in the game, and produced as a receiver, as a runner. And I've never been the biggest Leonard Fournette guy, but let me say this, man. I was critical of him early in the season. He grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and got so much better by playoff time. It's like he's a different player, man. What we saw in these playoffs is closer to 2017 Leonard Fournette than, early this season Leonard Fournette. And I thought he was just so clutch with some of his runs, some of his catches in this game. Playoff Lenny for a reason. And I think teams are going to be lined up who need a running back that want this guy. Because I think there's something about him. He brought an edge to this team. I thought his story is something that I think, even if you don't like Leonard Fournette, you got to give him a round of applause because this guy was cut by the Jacksonville fucking Jaguars, guys. Like, think about that for a second. Leonard Fournette was cut by the worst team in football this year and ends up going for over 120 yards and a touchdown in the Super Bowl and being the key cog of their offense throughout the majority of these playoffs. So, man, he played awesome. And my guy, Ronald Jones, 12 carries, 61 yards, and 5 yards a clip. He did have one target, wasn't able to corral it. Ronald Jones was great in this game too, I thought. I thought he looked real explosive. He made some really nice plays. I thought both the backs made great plays at extending runs, like breaking the first tackle, making a guy miss, stiff-arming a guy, getting the extra yard, falling forward. The only thing I can say about Rojo is he just wasn't able to punch in that one carry. But other than that, I thought these running backs were perhaps the best part of this offense tonight. Receiving wise, Rob Gronkowski, man, he's the GOAT. If you ever question it, even at, 75% of what he was, Rob Gronkowski, this was a true tight end masterpiece tonight. Like, everything he did in this game was superb. His run blocking in this game, his pass blocking in this game, his yak in this game, the touchdown, the first touchdown, well-designed play. He ran it in for the score. Couple key third down conversions. The hands on point, right? 6 for 7, 6 receptions on 7 targets, 2 touchdowns. Really got the offense going with some big plays in the game. I thought Gronk had a masterpiece of a tight end game. He was amazing everywhere across the board, right? The 2 touchdowns. That's what you expect from Gronk. The big plays, the third downs, the run blocking, the pass block. Just Gronk was one of the MVPs of this game. Cameron Brate, 3 catches, 26 yards. He was playing with a hurt back, 3 catches on 3 targets. Thought he played a very good game in this one. Mike Evans, only 1 catch for 31 yards. But that 1 catch was big. Besides that, they really didn't target him at all. He only had 1 target, 1 catch. That's it. Leonard Fournette, those 4 catches, 46 yards. I brought that up. Chris Godwin, only 2 catches for 9 yards. Evans and Godwin totaled 40 yards in this game, guys. 40 yards. It was a lot of running, and it was passing to Gronk, Brate, Fournette, and AB. AB had 5 catches, 22 yards, and a touchdown. That 1 touchdown was sweet. He also had a couple of screens that were big in the game to get the drives rolling and pick up a couple first downs. So those were the mismatches that they took advantage of. Tight ends, running back, and AB. We didn't see any Scotty Miller in this game. Really, that he didn't catch the ball. At least he was in the game, but he didn't catch the ball. Tyler Johnson didn't catch the ball. He was in the game, didn't catch the ball. Ryan Suckup, I thought, was very clutch. Only had 1 field goal, but 52 yards, right? That was a huge moment. If he misses that field goal, the tides may turn, and Ryan Suckup was able to execute on that 50-plus yarder. I thought that was huge. I thought Bradley Pinion, he had 1 bad punt in the game, had a couple big ones late to pin the Chiefs deep to make it tough. Now we got to go to the defense, guys, because they are truly the headliners. As much as we want to talk about Tom Brady for 7 rings, which is incredible, an accomplishment, and absolutely superb, and the running backs who are awesome in the offensive line, congratulations to the Bucs defense. That I think at the end of the day, I think you could truly say that what they did in these playoffs, this is the best defense in football. I think from top to bottom, beginning of the year to the end of the year, it's really with defenses, it's all about how you finish the season. It's all about how you play in the playoffs. And this defense is perhaps the biggest reason this team won the Super Bowl this year. Their defense everywhere, it's an example of a coverage unit and a front playing with symmetry and symphony, I'd like to call it. It was well choreographed on the back end and executed on the front end. Let's start with Ndamukong Suh. 1.5 sacks. I think Suh is an underrated storyline coming out of this game because I think he is now a Hall of Famer officially. If he wasn't before, he went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. He's been multiple-time All-Pro, multiple-time Pro Bowler. He caps it off with a Super Bowl victory with the Bucs. Hall of Fame. Ndamukong Suh was awesome in this game. Jason Pierre-Paul does not put up a sack, but my God, was this guy unbelievable. And that's just, I don't know what his pressure numbers were, but I'm sure they were above 5. Like, they doubled him, they chipped him, they held him, and he was unbelievable in this. Jason Pierre-Paul was just unstoppable. Like, unstoppable. He was in the backfield like that. He's a Hall of Famer, maybe. Right? Wins 2 Super Bowls, multiple-time Pro Bowler, multiple-time All-Pro, sack leader, I believe. JPP could be on his way to the Hall of Fame. Lavonte David, another guy, on his way to the Hall of Fame. I've said it many times before. Perhaps the most underrated football player of the last decade. Lavonte David is maybe the best linebacker in the league. He showed that today. His coverage on Kelsey in key moments was big. His overall just leadership and ability to, call out the offense and check and audible when needed. His communication was key, as we thought it would be. His run defense was key. He wasn't as involved as a blitzer, but somewhat involved. He did not have a sack, but he had 6 tackles, which was second behind only Devin White. Devin White, awesome. This guy just, he's a baller. Like, I don't know what else to say. A pick. He had multiple pressures in this game as a pass rusher. He made ridiculous stops in the run game. There was a few plays where he was on the left side of the field. The Chiefs ran the ball purposely to the other side of the field to get away from Devin White. Devin White runs to the other side of the field and makes the stop. I don't think there's another linebacker in the league that could do that. So Devin White, and I also thought Devin White was great in coverage too tonight. That's something, an area that people say he's weak at. He was really good. Shaq Barrett on Mike Ramirez. I mean, oh my. 1 sack in the game, but the sack numbers don't speak to the pressure. They only had 2.5 sacks in this game, which I said if they get 2.5 sacks, their chances of winning go way up, as the stats suggested. But they got 2.5 sacks. But it was the pressure, like down after down, snap after snap. And the thing that was also key about Shaq and JPP is that they were really too fast for Mahomes to just scramble and run away from. Romo brought up his foot, like, okay, it's hurt, but like, it didn't seem to, you never brought it up in the Bills game. I just felt like in the second half when they kept bringing up his foot, that's a different storyline. Like Tony Romo, I love Tony Romo. I thought Tony Romo was absolutely awful in this game. Like, it took him 4 quarters to actually give the Bucs defense any credit at all. Like, the whole game, Tony Romo was like, oh, Jim, the Chiefs could come back. It's like, could you give credit to the Bucs defense at one point in the game? Because they're literally in the backfield the whole game. So I thought Tony Romo, I love Tony Romo. I think he's great. He was awful, in my opinion, in this game. Like, completely terrible. I thought his analysis of the game at the start was very bad. I thought that throughout the course of the game, he was finding different avenues to make excuses for Kansas City not moving the ball when a team is just outplaying the other team. you just got to credit the team that's playing better. Like, that's just the way that you got to go about things. Like, personally, that's what I would do, and that's what I do on my live streams. You got to talk about the team that's outperforming the other team. You don't just continue. I get it. You're trying to keep viewers involved in the game and capture the moment, and you wanted the ratings to stay, but no, you got to talk about what's actually happening in the game, not the mythological, not the, oh, Jim, they're going to come back from 28 points. Talk about the game, not what could happen in the game. Okay? That's just my opinion. So Shaq Barrett, incredible. Vita Vea, freaking awesome. Okay? This guy just played his first game last week. He was playing D tackle, nose tackle, D end. I saw him drop back in coverage. He was swallowing grown men alive. This defensive line was, this was unbelievable. This performance, I don't know if there was a snap in the game where their defensive line did not get pressure. I would love to see the stat on this, but I truly do not believe there was a snap in the game where at least one of the Bucs defensive linemen made a play. I honestly don't know. Now, they did have trouble wrapping up Mahomes a little bit, but they got there, and that was what mattered. We talked about Jamel Dean. I thought he's probably the most underrated player on this defense. He was a huge factor. Obviously, he missed week 12, which I think was critical. But this game, he came back, and I thought he was really good, especially being the guy that was a majority of the time on Tyreek Hill. Mike Edwards, solid game. Jordan Whitehead. Mike Edwards was really involved as a deep safety, taking those deep balls away, never made a mistake, so that means he played well. Jordan Whitehead just playing with the torn labrum, dude, toughness. Carlton Davis, way to bounce back. Maybe gave up one catch in the entire game, just completely shut down Sammy Watkins. He was great. Sean Murphy-Bunting, good game. I thought he was tasked with a lot of Kelsey in this game, and it was tough on him, but I thought he made some plays when it mattered. Antoine Winfield was unbelievable in this game. Unbelievable. From blitzing to run defense, from flying around in coverage to nearly having 3 interceptions to piecing out Tyreek Hill, which, by the way, I condone that penalty. 100% good penalty to take. When your opponent pieces you and does 2 backflips in your building on your home field in week 12, and the game's 31-9, you're allowed to take a personal foul to give the guy a peace sign. I thought that was amazing. So I condone that penalty, and I congratulate my favorite rookie going into this last draft class, my guy, Antoine Winfield Jr. That's another one, guys. I like to be right, and I feel like I've been right on Antoine Winfield Jr. He's proven me right. All him. He was unbelievable. He might have been, outside of the defensive line for the Bucs, he was maybe the best player in the game, in my opinion. He was unbelievable. So those are all the players in the game, the stats, what went down. I know some of you guys have been commenting, oh, what about the offsides? What about this? What about that penalty? The offsides, guys, I've never seen an offsides not called before. So I don't really know. When I saw it live, I was like, ooh, that's not a good penalty to take. My reaction wasn't like, oh, the Chiefs got screwed. Because when you go offside, you have to call offside. Because it's an obvious penalty. It's like a false start. But at the same time, when you go offside, if a guy goes offside on a field goal, you could get blocked. It could be blocked. You can't not call that penalty. So I would have to go back and watch it to see if it was really offside, if that's what you're trying to say. But from all I know, it was offsides. And when you do go offside, you have to call it. It's like the most obvious penalty in the game. There was more than just one offside call. There was 2 or 3 in the game on both Kansas City and Tampa. But offside is the penalty that you call no matter what. Holding on offense or defense, you can get away with those things depending on the game, on the ref crew or whatever. Offside, false start, illegal, shift, those pre-snap penalties or pre-play penalties are always, always, always going to be called. 100%. 100%. Coach says that David and White were lights out dominating. So let's start off how many punts? Anyone know how many punts were in the game? Yes, I do. So Townsend had 3 punts and Pinion had 4 punts. So 7 punts in the game. So I think that's over on the prop. Let's go, guys. If you haven't already, Gronk, spike that like button. I know we have a lot of people in here. 350 people. Thank you guys for joining me here late at night to talk about the Super Bowl. Let's talk about it, guys. Let's talk about it. I'm ready for some comments, so get in that chat if you haven't already. Let's hear it. Let's hear your thoughts on the game. Let's hear your analysis on the game. Let's go. Keith says, Jonathan Haley, looking at it from the backside, it looks like a soft penalty, but looking at it from the ref side, yes, he had the guy in a chokehold. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but David said Brady had been in 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls in 10 and 21 seasons. This dude is literally a Madden franchise in real life. Unbelievable. No doubt the GOAT of GOATs. Love that comment. Royal says, anyone know how many punts? I already answered that. Jonathan says, had no problem with with what Winfield did. Why is Hill allowed to do it? Got him back. That's a good question. Hill's never called on that, but I don't know. Devin White, I think, is better than top 5. Durkan says Devin White top 5, but I think he's better than top 5. Ultra says, was always the Bucs, Saints, or Niners in the NFC. The Niners were going to have a slight Super Bowl hangover, in my opinion, and the difference between Tampa and New Orleans for me was Brady over Breeze ended up right. I think that was my main analysis as well, Ultra, so congrats on your pick. Gucci Man says Brady is the greatest of all time. There's no discussion. Dylan says, Mitch, do you think the Chiefs will suffer the Super Bowl hangover? That's a good question. I'd probably say they're in the playoffs next year. Whether they win the Super Bowl or not, we'll have to see. I'll say they get back to the playoffs. I'm not certain they'll win the Super Bowl, though. Eamon, what's up, man? Says, Leftwich and Bowles will be head coach candidates in 2022. I would agree. Samuel says, I feel bad for Mahomes. So much hate is coming. Really? I'm surprised by that. Chalk says, individuals do not make a team. That is what the Chiefs look like to me. I agree. Zach says, I'm a Bills fan and I hate... No, I don't necessarily agree with that Chalk outline. I agree with that. The Bucs were the better team, exposing the team with the better individual or the best individuals. That's the way I would put it. Zach says, I'm a Bills fan and I hate what Brady has done to the Bills, but damn, do I respect him. Steve says that Gronk should have won MVP. I would have given the MVP to the whole defense. Cool by Default says, yeah, Hill did a backflip in the Super Bowl last year. Lenny says, Mitch, I was the only one in the world who considered Mahomes' injury. I don't really think it was a big factor in the game because, can you tell me any play in the game where he didn't escape that he would have been able to escape? Because he escaped like 8 sacks. So I don't really feel like his foot was a problem. I think that was just something Romo was talking about, which is why part of the reason I hated Romo's commentary. Bill says Bucs, no mistake, because he didn't start. This is why I have a problem with it. Because he didn't start bringing it up till it was 38-9 or 31-9. That's why I have a problem with it. Christopher says, glad the cannons went off after the game. Bill says, Bucs, no mistakes. Chiefs, mistake after mistake. Zach says, Brady has 7 rings, more than any other franchise. Correct. Ultra says, Mitch, how does it make you feel when people have been saying that Breeze, Rodgers, and Mahomes are greater than Brady? I hope they stop because Ultra, you know how I feel about this, right? I always talk about it in the Discord. It's not like Ultra and you guys, I know you make fun of me or whatever for it, but I don't hate Rodgers. I don't hate Mahomes. I don't hate Breeze. I like all of them, okay? I like all of them. It's when you compare them and say they're better than Brady when I have a problem. Because, it's not true. How could you continue to sit here season after season, accomplishment after accomplishment, and say these guys are better than Brady. Like, could you say he was better in this season as an individual, or better in this season, or have a better moment here or a better moment there? Sure, those are different conversations. But saying they're better all time or more, the thing that drives me absolutely insane is the more talented thing. It just drives me up the wall. Like, I hate it. Because, like, how do you actually talk about talent? Sports aren't all about talent. I've seen a lot of talented players. How many draft busts have there been? Just think about that for a second. All of those guys were talented, but all of them didn't make it. Because talent isn't the thing that makes greatness. Lenny says, Mitch, where is the Super Bowl going to be played in 2021? I have no idea. Super Bowl was already played in 2021. So you're talking about 2022? Coach says, Stat Mahomes ran 468 yards, Brady 37. Are you talking about like throughout the course of the game? April says, do a top 5 free agents in the NFL. I probably will, April, so stay tuned for that. Or at least 25. I usually do like 50, 60, so stay tuned for that. L Max says Mahomes is getting cocky. That is something that, again, I don't want to get on Mahomes for this loss because I don't think it was his fault. But this was something that I feel was an underrated storyline throughout the week that only really likes credit to Skip Bayless. He was the only guy that actually brought it up because that's his job. And he's entitled to because he's like so pro Brady that he finds anything negative about the other quarterback to like bring up. But like Mahomes was like, there was something off about him throughout the past 2 weeks that I thought was a little weird. Maybe the pressure was getting to him a little bit. He appeared tired like every interview he did. And him like, I didn't feel like Brady was very, very like praising of Mahomes, but it felt like Mahomes wasn't like saying anything positive really. Like, I mean, he would say like, yeah, he's one of the greatest, but like saying one of the greatest, like, could it hurt you to say like he's the GOAT? Like the guy's the GOAT. Like, I don't know. It just felt like Mahomes was a little off. I don't exactly know why, but maybe I'm alone on this thought, but it just felt like the build up to the Super Bowl, his demeanor was off or something. I don't know. Maybe he felt the pressure for once. April says, call me doctor. What's up, doc? Daniel says, Boston wants Brady back. Yeah, I'm sure they do. Mr. Calculus says, will the Rams be a threat to the Bucs next year? I think so. I think the Rams will be a top 3 team in the NFC. Christopher says, do you see Antonio Brown re-signing with the Bucs, or is this it? I do. Samuel says, do you think the Bucs have now shown a blueprint to beating the Chiefs? No, because I think this blueprint has been shown, although I'd be very fascinated. I said to my friend Brett, who I watched the entire game with, shout out to Brett. We had a fun time watching the game and catching up because I haven't seen him in so long. But I was like, I'd really be fascinated to watch this game from coach's tape or 22 because I feel like you couldn't really see how the Bucs were dominating on defense because you couldn't see their coverage. And I felt like their coverage was probably the most underrated part about why they were so dominant because it allowed the time for their pass rush to take over. And it felt like Bowles did a really good job of pairing their coverage with their pass rush. And I really want to watch this game from that perspective because maybe we could learn more lessons from it. But mostly, Samuel, if I had to guess, it just looked like one team was outmatched. That's what it looked like to me. One team was just more talented than the other, especially up front. Lenny says, Mitch, we were the only people to pick the Bucs on the bottom line view. That is correct. David says the Chiefs' O-line was patchy and Pat was playing hurt and against a hot offense. Not to mention the Chiefs played without the discipline expected of a defending champ. I'd agree, David. I was very surprised by the discipline part you bring up. I was very surprised by their penalties, their personal fouls, their overall aggression. It felt like the pressure got to them early in the game, and it felt like they weren't composed enough when typically we've seen this team so composed. And I think that was probably the most shocking aspect to the game. Not necessarily that the Bucs blew the Chiefs out, because I saw a world where any of these possibilities could have happened. A lot of people didn't expect the Bucs to have any chance of blowing the Chiefs out. But I thought that if they got up early and they were able to let their pass rush just destroy the Chiefs, they could win in a blowout. But it's not about that. It's about, I'm surprised the Chiefs didn't make any comeback, because not even a little source of a comeback, because their composure was off. Like, it's that, to relate it to something else, it's like that boxer that is like losing the fight and all of a sudden he like tries to go for the knockout blow, and it felt like that was the Chiefs. Like, they were going back and forth. They were behind in the fight. They were losing the fight, and then they were just swinging for knockouts and getting countered. Like, that's what it felt like to me in this game from that perspective. Like, the Chiefs' composure and lack of was extremely surprising. Miles says he's a Chiefs fan. They disappointed me. I'd be disappointed too. Whenever you lose the Super Bowl, I've been there, it sucks. I've never lost in a Super Bowl in the fashion that you lost the Super Bowl, so it might be slightly different, but it sucks. Dylan says, what is this Madden curse? Samuel says, Mahomes may never be the GOAT, and Brady might be the GOAT forever. I'll say this. Brady Hater Part 2 is coming out 100%, but I'm a little happy that I didn't release my Brady Mahomes comparison, because maybe I'll use the graphics in a different capacity, or I'll just make the video title different. But I'm glad I didn't put out a Brady Mahomes comparison, because I feel like now it's going to take a lot for Mahomes to overcome what Brady has done. Banks says, do you think Pat will follow Russell Wilson? Both went to 2 Super Bowls in the first 3 years. Look unstoppable. I'll say this. Russell wasn't individually as great as Mahomes was early in his career, but both lost to Brady in the Super Bowl. Cool says, Brady has been working with less for years and accomplishing more. No more need to say after that. Christopher says, the most thing I was shocked was no touchdown for the Chiefs. That's true. How do you think that guy feels that bet like $5,000 on the Bucs not scoring a point? Ultra says, can you do a way too early NFL team tier list like you did? Yes, I will. Rebel says, Tampa defense walked Mahomes. Darren says, Swig Entertainment in the building. Shout out to you. Bill says, bigger loss today, Chiefs or Belichick? Chiefs. Darren says, salute. What's up, Darren? Bink says, LA. What's up, John? Says, Brady is the GOAT. Should have been already locked in. This ring at 43 should have take any questions. I think he's been the GOAT. I think he's been the GOAT personally since like 2010. But he was confirmed the GOAT in like 2014. And now he's just like, every other Super Bowl is just like on top of on top of on top. Like, it's just like, at this point, it's just like, stop. Like, I thought, like, if you didn't think he was the GOAT after 2014, he's the GOAT after 2016. And then if he's not the GOAT after 2016, then he goes to the Super Bowl, throws 500 yards and wins the MVP. He's the GOAT then. If he's not the GOAT then he's the GOAT after 2018. If he's not the GOAT now, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if he's not your GOAT now, like, just quit. Like, I don't know what to say. Just stop watching football. Samuel says, do you think the Bucs have now a blueprint? I already answered that. Number of times people keep on counting on and underestimating Brady is absurd. That's a good point. I mean, how many times, Winrist, did you hear this week? And I know you're always in the chat. How many times did you hear this week, oh, I can't bet against Mahomes? And I said this to my dad. I was on a walk with my dad, and we were talking about the game, and I'm like, you know how many people are saying don't bet against Mahomes, but are just not factoring in that Tom Brady is the other quarterback? And I'm just like, why are we saying don't bet against Mahomes and not don't bet against Brady? Like, what the hell? That doesn't make any sense. As well as Brett, when we were watching the game, he was like, I almost bet on the Chiefs, but I didn't because I was not going to bet against Brady. Like, I was like, smart man, good choice. Cool by default says Brady 6th round pick, 199th. And when he steps into a locker room, he raises everyone's level of play. His presence is MVP by itself. Even Report says next year's Super Bowl is in Inglewood. Interesting. Samuel says, do you think the Bucs have now a blueprint? That's the 4th time I've read that. Darren says, Swig Entertainment. Alter says, did someone replace the real Mahomes with a fake Mahomes? No. Ryan says, Skull, what's up, man? April says, who has? I'm not sure. 2020 says, do you think there's any chance for Mahomes to catch Brady with Super Bowl titles? 0%. Keith says, there is one thing to have blueprint and another to have personnel to pull it off. Yes. What else we got? Yes, I agree with Keith. I agree with your Serena Williams analogy. Zach says sports is about accomplishments and dominance. It's not always about talent or skill. In any sport, who are dominant or accomplish the bigger feats. April says, what team is the best free agents in 2021? Best free agents? That's a good question. I don't know, to be honest. I know the Bucs have a few. O.J. Howard wasn't in this game. Imagine O.J. Howard in this game, tight end. Those tight ends would have feasted, man. So they'll get him back next year. FSE says, Mitch, every year you make a video on the Super Bowl winning quarterback. You made one on Brady 2 years ago. What will it be about this year? That's a good question. I mean, Mahomes won last year. I know for a fact that I'm doing a Brady Haters Part 2 because it is the greatest video, or I'll say the greatest because guys, it's the most accomplished video on my channel. Personally, I don't know if it's the best video I've ever made, but it's the most viewed, probably the most liked, probably I've gained the most subscribers from it. So I'm probably going to be making a Part 2 to that video. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'll make like a season. I think what I'm going to do is I want to do like a season story-esque video for the Bucs at some point within the next week or two. Coach says Bucs have great athletes. Not too many teams can match their personnel. Lenny says, Mitch, what do you think of your MVP's performance? You're talking about Brady, I assume. I thought he was very good. I don't think he needed to be spectacular, but he was damn good enough. Cool says, yes, they were hot-headed and constantly yelling and arguing. They were clearly frustrated. I thought especially their defensive line was frustrated. I thought that offensive line really frustrated those guys up front. Was Mahomes nervous or hurt? I think a little of both. Cool says Romo was still trying to sell some kind of comeback in the 4th quarter. Yeah. Jonathan says, honestly, I'm amazed we held them to 9 points. I agree. You know, I thought a great performance by the Bucs would have been like 17 to 20 points. Even 24 would have been like an accomplishment. 9? No touchdowns? That's spectacular. Zach says, Mitch, I think that question earlier about the Super Bowl in 2021 meant to be the next year. Yes. John says, okay, fine, I'll try it again. Bills, Seahawks, Super Bowl next year. Lock it in. All right. April says, when will you be doing all positions? Like rankings? Probably later on in the offseason. Usually I do free agency first, and then I do the draft. And like rankings come after like the main period of free agency typically. But I love doing rankings. Certainly going to do a lot of them. Alter says, Mitch, let's toast to this. We were the only 2 men in America. Well, I'm not in America, but I get your point. Right on Jamel Dean and the Bucs secondary. Damn right, Ultra. And they're still not going to get enough respect. What's up, God shall bless Tampa? He says, I think we'll go back to the NFC Championship, but lose to the Rams or Niners. This guy's already thinking about next year. He's not even celebrating. Jonathan says there's only one guy in sports not to bet against, and that is Brady. What's up, Sebi? What's up? Hot Take says, I said don't bet against Tom Brady. I didn't bet the results of this game, but if I had, I was going the Bucs because of the value. Wish I had, obviously. Yeah, my friend Ryan said, I wish I bet more money, which you always bet, you wish you bet more money when you pick the winner. What's up, SpongeBob? Nice to see you, man. RVD, what's up, man? The whole damn show says Tom Brady's only regret is not finishing the undefeated season. If he had that, I mean, oh my God. Keith says their announcer said that Brady had the highest winning percentage of anyone in the 4 major sports, and that's out of 4 major sports. The Bucs have the lowest winning percentage. Brady goes to Tampa Bay and they win. Yeah, that's factually right. Tom is the GOAT human. Lmax says, I told people to pump the brakes on Mahomes. He's had a great start to his career. I've heard people already put him in the top 10 greatest of all time. I think he'll get there eventually, but I agree. It's not fair to those guys to put him there yet. Ultra says, I know this might sound crazy, but if they keep most of their important free agents, I think Tampa could be better next season. I agree, at least during the regular season. Cassie says, not a Brady fan at all, but give him his due. He has 7 rings. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I mean, even if you're a hater, you got to see the greatness. That's all I care about. I don't care if you hate the guy, but if you say you respect him, we're cool. FSC says on Brady Hater Part 2, are you going to debunk another set of claims? Probably. It's going to be difficult because I don't know what else there is to claim, but I'll do my best. That's a real beating we got in the chat. Jeremy says that the Chiefs and the Bucs are going to run it back. I'll say this. The AFC is much more competitive than the NFC. Yeah, that was a crazy catch by Godwin that didn't count. Yes, I'm in Vancouver. Will he come back and win again? Brady has a chance. Too many flags, says Nathan. I don't think any of the calls were bad calls. I would say, I don't even know. Like, I can't recall every call. There were a couple that looked iffy. I would agree with that. But, I mean, by the rules, like, I don't know, man. Like, they all seem pretty fine to me. Like, I can't really say one call that was clearly egregious that completely took the game away from the Chiefs. This reminds me of like when the Colts said that the Patriots deflated footballs and they won 40-7 or 40-3. And it's like Chiefs fans now claiming that the refs are the reason that they lost 31-9. Like, okay, maybe 1 or 2 calls were not exactly the greatest. I don't even know that to be true. But to say the flags are the reason your team lost in this game, I get it if it was like one egregious call like the Saints versus the Rams, but there wasn't even one like that. It was like an iffy borderline call. Like, it was 31-9. Your team didn't even score a touchdown. Like, what do you want? I don't know. I don't want to hear it. What's my Super Bowl prediction next year? Yours is Bucs and Titans. I don't see the Titans going. I really don't know. I haven't thought a second about it. David says, do you think Tampa will win the division next year? Oh, for sure. Not even a question. Even if Breeze comes back. Not a question. RVD says the only thing left for Brady is going undefeated. Ryan says Tom Brady about to go back-to-back. Winner says, and people are always trying to use talent to discount Brady, but the fact that Brady did what he did with less talent for so many years is in fact what made him even greater. FSC says, Mitch, if the Eagles, Cowboys, and Niners were all healthy, would either of them beaten the Bucs? No. Damn, no, not the Eagles. Cowboys probably would have made the playoffs, lost to the Bucs in the first game. Niners probably would have made the playoffs, probably would have lost in the second round to the Packers. Gronk at WrestleMania 37. Mary says Brady rocks. Who's my top 10 teams? I don't want to think about that right now, but I will be releasing my tiers of every team in the league probably within the next week. Vic says, great job by Brady shutting up the haters. Guys, if you haven't already, Gronk, spike that like button. Give Gronk a spike right now. We have 300 people in here. We only have 178 likes. I want to get to at least 200, guys. Where are the jerseys you promised? I promised last week, and I did it last week. Maybe I'll wear a jersey in a video or something. I don't know. James White is a free agent. Another Pat to Buck. I actually think that would be an awesome addition. I've been wanting it all year, Bill, so I love it. I think White and Edelman could be Bucks next year. I think that could happen. I think Ravens and Bucks could happen next year. Yep. I agree, Zach, on the Jordan take. The Niners didn't have a quarterback this year. I think that was their main problem. Dylan says the NFL season flies by. Before we know it, another season of football will be among us. Yep, it felt like it took like a month to get to the Super Bowl. Felt like these 2 weeks were like a month long, but the season felt like it was a month long. It like flew by. Bank says this was the hardest Super Bowl road ever. Breeze, Aaron, and Mahomes. I think in terms of quarterbacks, yeah, you could argue that for sure. Bro, that's an interesting conversation. I might even have to make that video. Brady versus Jordan. I might even have to make that video because I love both of them. I don't know. That's tough because I think, man, that's just tough. I only do football, but I'm good at it, I think. Danny says Brady is the best, not just because he's amazing skill, but he elevates everyone around him. FSE says releasing a 26-year-old quarterback to sign a 43-year-old quarterback, a terrible move on paper. Mitch, my results said differently. If the Bucs had Winston, do they make this? No, hell no. It's not even no. Yusuf says it wasn't a terrible move on paper. I agree with that too. Banks says you have to factor in who the quarterback was. Banks says, don't forget that kid went off in Washington game. He played very well. Yes, he did. I said that at the time. And a lot of people, I guess, thought that was more of a negative for the Bucs than a positive for Heinicke. I think what Heinicke did is just a bigger credit to him now at the end of the day. So, and I also would say this. I think Breeze's last game doesn't look as bad as it does considering how bad, Mahomes statistically performed in this game and how Rodgers played well, but like considering he was sacked 5 times and their offense didn't look good. So, I think Breeze, when we look back at his last game, if the Bucs wouldn't have won the Super Bowl, it looked a lot worse. But now that they won the Super Bowl in the convincing fashion that they did, I don't think people remember Drew Brees' last loss that much. And I don't think you can really hold it against him as much because, I mean, he was just simply done and he played a really good team. Rinris says, can't wait for America's game. Yes. I always forget about that. That's awesome. You think Brady will pass Ric Flair? Hey, man. Ric Flair. He's going to get 17 championships? All right, guys. I mean, I've talked about just about everything. I love you guys sticking around here. John says, hot take hockey. Guys, if you're not subscribed to Hot Take Hockey, man, go subscribe to my boy John. If you're a hockey fan, NHL fan, go subscribe to John. He does content every day, live streams. If you enjoy live reactions, live streams, go check out John. Does a great job with hockey. I think he's probably the best hockey channel out there. So go check him out. Go subscribe. He says, how many quarterbacks in the league win with this Bucs roster? 5, 6. That's probably it. Now, this game, maybe more, but in general, probably like 5 or 6. Hey, Casey, what's up? Congratulations, Bucs. Congratulations, Bucs fans. Shut the F up, says Mahomes played horrid and people don't want to admit it. Yeah, his O-line was bad, and that's what Russ deals with every game. True. But he doesn't throw 2 picks every game, no touchdowns when the O-line doesn't perform. Yeah, I don't think he played well. Again, I don't think he played well. I thought he played average. But I think he played bad in some people's eyes because the whole offense played bad, not just him. Yes, FSE, you're right. That might be one of the things to debunk. You think the Seahawks are contenders? I think they're a tier below contenders. I think they're like a good team, but I don't know if they're contenders. We'll see what they do in the offseason. David says, so was it Tom or Bill? To me, it's looking like Tom. Yeah, I think it's a quarterback league. I think it's probably like 60-40. Tom. All right, man. And then I got to wake up tomorrow and do homework. Like, oh, dude. Is Prime Gronk the greatest tight end ever? Yes. Gronk's the greatest tight end ever, period. Career-wise. I'm not talking numbers, but when you compare like his per game numbers and his production and his skill set to any other tight end in NFL history, he's the best. Rob says he tips his hat off to Tom Brady. Or sorry, did I say Rob? Rob does. Sorry, Rob. I appreciate Rob. Rob's been here for like 3 or 4 years, man. Maybe more than that. Rob's an OG. What do you think my Falcons should do in the offseason? We'll get to that in the offseason. Guys, trust me, we'll do all that stuff in the offseason. I'll go through each and every team. I'll release a free agency report and all that sort of stuff. Yes, I do. Yes, Rob, tons of coffee. I don't know if I'll need it tomorrow, actually. I'll just jump out of bed, pumped. The problem is, it probably would have been harder if the Bucs lost, but it's really hard not to just go on Twitter and YouTube for like the rest of the night and just watch videos for like 8 hours. Usually when my team wins a Super Bowl, now I sound like an absolute dickhead right now, arrogant prick, but when my team wins a Super Bowl, which I've been fortunate enough to see it 7 times, it's like I just go on YouTube and just watch videos, or I just go on Twitter and just see all the reactions. John says, you can tell, ladies and gents, that Milani loves school, as do I. Yes. Love it. Love it. Benjamin says Gronk is better than Kittle. It's not even close. Hey, Rob, back off that take. Winrus says the Bucs defense shove the help is on the way to Tyreek Hill's throat. Yes. David says, great show, man. Thanks for great entertainment. Keep it up. Thank you, David. Appreciate it, man. I hope you're subscribed if you aren't already. Terrence says, Tom Brady, is there any doubters now? If so, go watch another sport. Timothy says, O-line F, clock management F. Oh, that's a good point. I don't know if I really brought up that enough or put an exclamation point. Okay, I'm getting to the point where I can't even speak. Andy Reid was really bad tonight in terms of his clock management and his situational calls. They didn't even go for it on fourth down like early in the game at all. They kicked a long 52-yard field goal. Like, some of the calls by Andy Reid, timeouts, like overall clock management, I thought was bad. The end of the first half, they called a timeout. Not good. Yeah, I know, John. I'll be there too. I'll be happy for you if that ever happens. I'll be in your corner for that one for sure. I'll probably even attend a game. We got to go to a game if that happens. Martin says, Mitch, you're a genius. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate that. I'm not a genius, but sometimes I get some things right. LGRW says, Red Wings Cup. I don't know about all that. David says, what was your favorite play? Probably the Gronk the first Gronk, or the second Gronk touchdown. Was it the second or the first? The one, the deep one in the end zone. That was probably my favorite play. That was just really cool for me to see as a Patriots fan. You know. Martin says, congrats to Tom Brady and the Bucs. Mitch, you had such a great breakdown of the big game, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. I like I said at the beginning, it's not about me, my team winning or my team losing. It's more about me being right. So thank you. Or me being close to right, at least. So thanks. Rob says, I would be the happiest man in the world if Stanley Cup ever went to San Jose. Oh, Rob's cursed. San Jose never wins. All right, we'll take a couple more questions, guys, and then I'm going to go and watch some videos on YouTube and go through tweets and then probably not sleep at all and wake up tomorrow and drink a lot of coffee and get back to life, I guess. Joe Mixon says Fournette deserved it. Also, did you see the great pass Mahomes that was dropped? Yeah, that was an incredible. There was 2 plays in a row that were pretty incredible by Mahomes that just didn't connect. They were almost pretty fluky, but thank you, Terrence. Martin says second one, yeah. And so pleased AB got a touchdown. Yeah, I was pumped for AB too. Where was Giselle? Not sure. Was she not at the game? That was also a great play. Salty Dash, the peace sign. That was awesome. Do you think the Bucs can repeat? Can they? Yes. Will they? Tough task. RVD says, Mitch, how about you do just a shut up video like Mike and Mike used to do and include Rob Parker? Bro, this is what I was going to do. You might spoil it for everybody. I was actually going to make a total like dickhead, like me giving all my takes on the Bucs video. Like that's what I was going to do. Like a compilation of all the good takes I made about the Bucs and just putting it in one video and just shoving it up everybody's candy ass. That's what I was going to do. David says, who do you think the Patriots should target as their next quarterback? We have plenty of time to talk about that. I wanted it to be Stafford. Unfortunately, it will not be, but I really don't know yet. I don't really know who the options are yet outside of the rookies. Yes. Guaranteed prediction. Loser will blame the refs. BLV, have a great, blessed day. Thanks for sharing. Great live video. Thank you. Zach says, Brady didn't let down the great Trent Dilfer. He honored him well tonight by winning in his jersey number and upheld his legacy. Trent Dilfer. Winter says, can't wait for your off-season videos, Mitch. Keep up the good work. Thank you, man. John, I think I'm going to do it. Martin, sad my Buffalo Bills defense couldn't play half that well. Yeah, I was disappointed in the Bills too, man. I was very disappointed. Thank you, Tanner. Phil says, Tom, Gronk, greatest buddies, greatest ever. Gronk helped TB just by coming down for the season, his best friend. Yeah, I agree, man. I think Gronk does. I think, everyone talks about Brady's leadership and Brady's personality and Brady's, the Brady factor. Not enough people talk about the Gronk factor and what he did for this team too. For not just from a playing perspective, but from a personality perspective too. I think Gronk is a great teammate. Which of these quarterbacks is most likely for the Colts? Darnold, trade up for Wilson. Watson, Mac Jones. Out of those, I think Darnold. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. Hope you enjoyed Super Bowl 55. If you enjoyed this recap, review, reaction of the big game, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL, guys. This is a channel that doesn't stop after the season stops. We go year long. We go hard in the offseason. So if you want good offseason content, stay here. Stay tuned to the Bottom Line View. Thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate all of you. Peace. Go Bucs.